supervision, and of course supervision of undercover officers has been a problematic area. Now the HMIC did put a report together and made some recommendations. Have those been taken up by the Met?
Yes, they have. And I think, first of all, I should begin, I think on behalf of the Met, I owe you an apology. I believe, looking at the briefing I've got, you wrote to us and we took 9 months to respond to you.
Months ago.
Sorry?
Months ago.
A month ago.
Well, no, months.
I believe we took 9 months to respond to you, so apologies, that's not acceptable, and we will pick that up. Yes, both the HMIC review in relation to that, but also, as some members will be aware, we are currently doing our own review in relation to the activities and work of SDS and undercover officers.
Is that the one you started in October last year?
Yeah, Operation.
It's still going, isn't it?
It's still going. Well, there's 30 years of information and data. That undercover unit ran for nearly 30 years. So we are looking at all of it. You know, there will be millions and millions of pieces of paper to look at and review, and that's Operation Hearn, which is
Can you spell that for me? H-E?
I think it's as it sounds, but hang.
All right, don't worry.
Yes, you're right. H-E-R-N-E.
Right. It's the first time I've heard, because I have been asking questions about it, it's the first time I've heard the title. One of the HMIC recommendations is about pre-authorisation.
Yes.
And as you know, at the moment, there's an ongoing legal case
Yes.
where 5 women are alleging that undercover
Yes.
officers instigated long-term sexual relationships with them. And I'm curious, with pre-authorisation, would a serving police officer be given that sort of authorisation to start a sexual relationship with an activist?
Not ordinarily.
While using a false identity?
Not ordinarily, no.
What do you mean, not ordinarily?
Well, you can't write a rule for every particular scenario. They would give a pre-authorisation for deployment, but a pre-authorisation for deployment would cover conduct and code. It would not get down into the level of detail of saying you can or can't.
So, would that officer have to report back to his supervisor on that relationship?
Yes.
If there was pre-authorisation?
If there was a relationship, they'd have to report back.
I'm absolutely staggered by this, that you say that, because what happens if a child is born, as has been alleged? What happens? Where's the responsibility for that?
Well, those individual cases are clearly going to be explored by the court.
I know, I'm not asking about any particular case, I'm asking generally, because, you know, what obligations are there for the Met if a child were from a pre-authorised liaison?
You're taking my words in a slightly different way. I did say, absolutely, that pre-authorisation, we don't do pre-authorisation about relationships.
Not ordinarily.
If people... Sorry?
You said not ordinarily.
If people are involved or become involved in a relationship, it has to come back to the supervisor straight away.
But that begs the question: what happens? What the supervisor does? Hopefully, so, what advice does the supervisor give in those circumstances to the officer? One, to protect the employee as well as the other party involved, who may well be a suspect, but more likely might not be a suspect because the relationship is there. So, what advice is the supervisor meant to have given to the operative?
It's not covered in detail in the guidance. I will let me write to you on the advice. I'm not a supervising officer.
The thing is, if a supervising officer knows about a sexual relationship and a child is born from that relationship, then the Met has some parental responsibility. Also, that child, because of course the police officer will be using a false name, that child has some sort of right to know the correct legal name of its father.
Our expectation is people will not engage in long-term relationships. But if you're saying...
Apparently...
I'm telling you where we are now. Our expectation, they will not engage in long-term relationships and get involved in the sort of things that you're describing and are well documented in terms of those sorts of things. But if you're saying to me, is there a scenario where it could never happen, that effectively we end up with, I'll make it up, that undercover officers are all subjected to a sexual test, it's very, very hard to sit and write those rules sitting here. If you said that I'm a member of a group and I decide to test whether X or Y is a undercover officer by some sort of sexual test, that's an incredibly difficult thing to sit and write at the centre. Let me be clear, those long-term relationships you're describing are not where undercover officers should be.
No, I know they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It's really what the Met... Are you saying now it could not happen?
Well, providing the supervisor works, it couldn't happen. But that it absolutely relies on individual supervision. That's why we've put all the work in. I think
we've established that supervision's a little bit dodgy, haven't we,
no,
generally?
No.
Or can be.
It can be, but undercover officers and the work and the focus that's gone on the back of both the HMIC report and the work we've done has brought a load of those things into much more line around how it's managed, how it works, and the individual role of that supervisor. Because for an undercover officer, the supervisor is the crucial link.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Greenhalgh, are you happy with what you're hearing?
Well, I think I think you're getting a factual account from the Deputy Commissioner, and clearly we need to ensure that there are robust processes and procedures and guidelines to the supervising officer, and it's something that I'd look to the Audit and Risk Committee to have strong oversight over, to ensure that the scenario you paint doesn't happen again. So the answer is that I'm not, at this stage, I can't say that I'm satisfied, but I think it's something that I'd want to be satisfied, and all the process issues that have been raised around vetting and other areas, that there are robust processes in place, put in place by the Met, and they're being overseen by those that are looking at audit and risk issues.
Will you take my point about any child born of any relationship?
Well,
and what responsibility the Met might have to that child?
I'll take that specific point away, but I think we have to, looking forward, I think you've had an assurance of the Deputy Commissioner that that should not happen again if the processes are properly adhered to. If it's happened in the past, I'm not aware of this. You seem to be...
The HMAC report also recommended that the National Code of Conduct for undercover officers should be rewritten, and now the Met is the lead on undercover officers in effect. Would that, well, first of all, is that code being rewritten? And secondly, would it cover the instances that Jenny has talked about personal relationships and so forth?
I don't know the exact detail. I'd have to get back to you on are we as specific as that in the code. I genuinely don't know. It is being rewritten. The work around that has gone into specialist operations, SO15, and that is currently underway. But whether it goes to that level of detail, I'm happy to answer to you written. I don't have that in front of me.
I just feel like what I would like to hear from you is a blanket assurance that permission, pre-authorisation for a sexual relationship with an activist is never given. I really would like some sort of... Because I just can't see that HMIC would think very much of pre-authorisation for something like that either.
That's why I said to you, I can't see that scenario happening now. I cannot see that scenario happening now. But what I can't do to you is give you a written guarantee that. So let me come back to you on that, on the new code, and if it's as specific as that, then I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you.